Well, silver's looked like a dead end for the last several years, and it's actually been down longer than I expected. But on the flip side, I wasn't wrong about palladium, and I acted accordingly many years ago. Now, and right now, with the price of palladium being over $1,500 an ounce, would I tell somebody to invest into it? I think it would be very dangerous because it's 95% industrial metal, in other words, industrial use. If the markets come down, palladium will sink like a stone. So, it's risky. I don't know. It should actually long term go up even more than that, but how long will wait? I don't know. Now, one thing I want to actually present to you is in another way is that I don't think anybody's actually said this before, but we live in what would you call is a financial hologram. It's like a movie presentation of an altered reality. It's one way of looking at it. And I think that, I know right now, if you've got electronic funds and you can just use them to buy whatever hard goods you need, and probably that's your best strategy, is to buy hard goods that are necessary or be necessary to you in the future. Silver is one of the best investments for this reason, other than the dollar assignment, which I think can go up greatly beyond that, what it is now, but it could be very tradable if people recognize that it has antimicrobial and medicinal purposes. Before penicillin came on the scene, they used to use colloidal silver or silver salts to as an antimicrobial. One of the things, it's not patentable. It goes back thousands of years. Roman soldiers used silver for as an antimicrobial, and the Greeks before them used silver before them, and the pioneers used silver in large buckets and also in their well to keep the water fresh, and also the farmers use silver-lined pails to keep the milk fresh. You think it's not going to have a practical application in a tradable way, whereby if somebody has all these tools or something, or they have fuel, you can't trade silver for that, because if people really recognize what it does versus just being a shiny silver coin or something, what it actually has use, of course, because silver's got many different sides to it, just like this two-eyed cat. It's got the blue side and a tan side. So now it seems like we're stuck in a quagmire, and quite obviously the price of silver is being held down. I mean, and we notice the precious metals are being held down with all the debt that's out there. That silver should really be hundreds of dollars an ounce. I don't think it's ever going to go to that, maybe, but I would assume it's going to go to $65 to $70 or $75 an ounce. But who the hell knows? And one of the things I look at is the fact that sites like that are not conspiracy sites, like Deagle.com, Deagel, not Le. It's not spelled like Beagle with a D. It's got EL in the end. Their 2025 projections for the United States on GDP, purchasing power parity, and also the projected military expenditures and the size of the population are showing only less than 6 years from now being greatly diminished. I can't believe what they're saying, but then again, I knew about way back in the 90s that the tech boom was getting ahead of itself, and I never expected it to crash that bad. I knew that the real estate market was getting ahead of itself back in the 2000s, and it crashed dramatically in the beginning of 2007, far more than I thought. Maybe the crash, in one of the points they make on Deagle.com, which is not a conspiracy site, it's actually an aviation and military hardware site that does projections. One of the things they pointed out is nobody expected that the crash of the Soviet Empire would be that hard or that fast too. They look really strong in the early 80s. By the late 80s, early 90s, totally changed. So, another thing you can invest in, like right now we have the option of going to supermarkets, and one of the things that we're probably not going to have that option, because if the dollar itself has a problem whereby people, because it's amazing, I don't understand why countries, I know the OPEC system is designed to soak up the excess dollars on the market, whereby oil producing countries like Saudi Arabia are buying our debt to invest in with the proceeds of the oil that they sell, and that oil is always traded ultimately in dollars, which it creates a demand for dollars. But if that system falls apart, and it is starting to fall apart because there's some more direct trade going between Saudi and China, and I know there's greatly a lot more direct trade as far as oil is concerned going on between Russia and China, so which are totally bypassing the OPEC's oil market system, which in turn props up the dollar. If that system falls apart, what you're going to see is all commodities go up, silver, but also food. So if you grow your own garden, you can take care of most of your food needs, and it's a replenishing investment. It's going back to 1800s technology. You're not going to just be able to walk strolling in the supermarket and maybe buying everything, and maybe it'll be out of price. But then if it's out of price, maybe you'll have to trade silver for food. You'd be better off keeping that silver for other things and not just using it for food. If you can grow your own garden, that's a very important step. And I know this is not going to be the case for people who live in the city, because if you're in the concrete jungle, this is actually one of the areas you're going to have the greatest problem if there's ever an economic collapse in metropolitan areas. And this is why I partially do believe that, even though I think the projections for 2020 by 2025 are really off the charts as far as how dismal they are by some people, but I do think they're basically correct. And I don't know if it's going to be the deadline, it's going to be 2025 or even beyond that, but obviously we cannot keep continuing to go on and live in a financial hologram where we have an altered reality. The reason I say it's an altered reality is because basically what Americans are doing today is they have a strong dollar, yet the country is the biggest debtor nation in all-time history, and yet we have all these people across the world working on basically slave wages to provide ourselves with cheap goods. Our food is coming from, I know food is produced domestically, but a lot of food is actually still coming from overseas. And pretty much all the hard goods we have are interrelated, at least, even if they're made in the USA. There's still a lot of parts that come from other countries, but most of the goods we're using today are not being produced here. In other words, hard goods. It's being held up by, and the reason this whole reality is going that way, I know it works for now, but it's really like a financial hologram. And I just think that it's going to change rapidly. If you ever have a computer rush on banks, matter of fact, they almost had that in, was it 2008 or 2009 when they had the late September, when they had a rush on the money markets, and it just about caused a banking closure, which would have not been a closure permanently, but for a few days, but would have really shaken psychologically the markets where people would not put their money in banks at all. If that even happened for a few days, people would be stuffing greenbacks in their mattresses. But on the opposite side, when silver goes up, it's going to be, the thing is with silver, it is like the most difficult metal to predict. And maybe that's not true because there's other ones out there that can even be worse, like rhodium and isotopes. Caesium isotopes could be, but they're not on the, caesium isotopes aren't on the actual markets where people can, a spot market though. That some of the metals out there that are not on the spot market can really fluctuate greatly, and where people would invest in them, sometimes they would be on private placement platforms, and it's like playing Russian roulette. Somebody's going to really get clobbered on their financial investment. That's very dangerous to play that kind of game. Usually that's the type of game that we call the quote-unquote elite play, which I had some exposure to. I actually saw some of the things that went on. Very, very much not known by the public, but that's here nor there. I mean, that has nothing to do with us or me or whatever, because it's just that I know there's another game out there going on. That is not really, it's something you can't read in the Wall Street Journal, for instance, even. But when silver goes up, you're going to see all these people coming out saying it's going to the moon. It's going to be like old girl here trying to reach for a star. It looks so close. It looks so close. And just a little more, and I'll hold on a little longer. And then, I'll sell it. I'm only going to sell it right now. One of the jokes that some of the people that say that are against the investment in silver is like, if a person sells silver, what they'll do is likely they'll just buy more silver. It's like, use your head. I mean, there's other things out there that are potential hard assets that could be returning you an investment. It could be raw land, possibly, or it just could be getting yourself out of debt, or in the case of a true financial collapse, which could be, because in the case of a true financial collapse, the silver might get you by, especially if people understand that it's got medicinal benefits to it. You can't even say that about, gold might have very minor medicinal benefits in some ways. Colloidal gold. Palladium was not going to have any medicinal benefits I know over platinum. It's really silver. Silver's a thing that has, I know there's been controversy because I've seen some studies that say silver does not help generate stem cells to help your body repair. And there's other studies that say it does. So it's a big question mark, okay? But obviously it's got antimicrobial abilities. And if the case of a problem whereby people don't have access to medicine, silver's been one of the things that was used to fight disease for going back thousands of years and in different cultures. It's not a fake hearsay rumor. It's actually reality. So if you got no choice and you got no medicines, colloidal silver might be one of the keeping some silver around to make colloidal silver, or just keeping some silver around to throw in a barrel of water to keep it last longer so it doesn't accrue as much microbes. Well, that could be a very smart thing, especially if people understand that's what it does. It's going to have a high value in a situation where, you're dependent upon yourself to get your own food, your own water. You can't just go to the markets. It's going to have a lot more value to it. So, another thing I want to point out too, world population growth is unprecedented. And I have looked at some of the things, some of these things they have out there on the internet are a little, I know YouTube is cracking down on the conspiracy sites and stuff, but, some of the things that they label as conspiracy aren't conspiracy. One of the things I observed that, just to go off a little bit on a sidetrack, is that when they put all these videos out about flat Earth, oh God, to me that's called deliberate disinformation, because it's like they mix flat Earth with other things that are legit, that are not. You're bringing out a point that reveals something that they don't want known, so they associate flat Earth with that, so you don't listen to the other thing. I don't want to give any examples because YouTube won't like it, but one reality is that maybe the population of the Earth was bigger than it is today. I don't know, at some point, and we don't know about it. Maybe it was a million years ago or something. I don't know, because nobody really knows what the hell happened a million years ago, right? Exactly. We think we do. But as far as I know and what everybody else knows, we're in unprecedented territory on world population growth. And everything is interdependent. In other words, we got people that grow food, and we have people that specialize in the products that make the food grow faster, which could be the fertilizer and the pesticides, and also the machinery that tills the soil and harvests the crops. We also have the trucking system and transportation system and the storage system and the retail system and the marketing system that gets it to you. And it's in a very efficient system, but if one little key along that whole labyrinth of the mechanics to get the food from, the place it grows to you is missing just one aspect of that, it's not going to happen. Back in the day, it was a lot less efficient way back when you had everybody was a small farmer. You couldn't feed as many people, but the thing is, when you grew the food, you know where it was, you didn't have to transport it, you know about storing it because you're storing it yourself. And I'm looking at, if the system starts breaking down, one aspect of it, it doesn't matter what it is, even if the fuel goes way up, actually growing crops is very energy intensive, it's going to affect the population of the Earth greatly. That's maybe why this Deagle.com's got these dire predictions, and it could be. And this is why, silver's one aspect of your survival plan, or whatever you want to call it, your prepping plan, but you got other aspects too. Food is a biggie, and also water. And again, silver could relate to the water, because again, silver can keep that water much fresher for many more months, just as the pioneers did and the ancient Greeks did. Even before the Romans, they used to throw silver coins into urns, or in the case of the pioneers, into barrels of water, or into the well to keep the water fresher. So there is hope, okay? It's like old girl here riding her bicycle coming out to the beach, and she sees the sun and the seagulls. There is hope. I'm not presenting a message of dismal dismay. That's not trying to do that. But it does look like you're going through a jungle. And the deal is that we are looking, when you're trying to look to the future, you really don't know what the hell's going to happen exactly, because what people do is they look to the past and they try to predict the future from the past. Now, that does work in some cases, usually in the cases when you're looking at human nature, but it doesn't work exactly that well with markets, because actually there's a principle that they use to predict markets that says that you can't look at past market behavior to predict future market behavior. Now, some people try to do that, but I can predict this, that each generation in the United States has seemed to have gotten softer and softer, and even if we are not of the people that we consider to be ill-disciplined, we are still so specialized in our own field. Like, you could be a guy that's a tech genius that works 75 hours a week and really knows his job, and you're highly disciplined. If there was a collapse of the financial hologram, if you want to call it that, and you had to worry about growing your own food or gathering your own food or something, or getting your own water supply and retaining everything, you're going to have a hard time, despite you being an expert in your niche area. And that's one of the problems. We got specialized people today. And, again, it's like, I look at the financial markets almost like this meatless wham. It's vegetarian protein slices. Is it real meat? No, it's meatless wham. Have a bite. That's basically what we've been running on today. Instead of the real deal money, we got the meatless wham. That's been actually feeding the financial system. So anyway, we were and it wasn't that many years ago when things were a lot more real. I mean, yeah, we could say it was a lot more real in the medieval times, the ancient Roman times, the ancient Greek times, or the pioneer times of the 1800s. But it was a lot more real back even in the 1930s, which is not that long ago. People actually did, I think the main people that really suffered the most, I mean, yes, it could have been out where the Dust Bowl was in Oklahoma, but generally speaking, if you were, say, in the mountains of Tennessee, Georgia, or something like that, or West Virginia, and you pretty much knew what your trade was, and you were an independent farmer and hunter, I don't think you're affected that much by the depression of the 1930s. I think the main people that were mainly affected the greatest were the people in the metropolitan areas, and I expect that is going to be the same situation, because they cannot grow their own food. I know back in the 1930s, everybody had a garden practically. That was commonplace. Most people had gardens. Now, what people can do today, which they do in Japan, which is surprising they don't do in America, is, the Japanese, when I was over in Japan for over 6 years in the Marine Corps, right? And the Japanese always put gardens on top of their roofs. They grow, they could be in a metropolitan area, and maybe that's not enough food to feed everybody, but the landlord will have his garden up there on the roof, and he's got plenty of food, for crying out loud. And he could grow that nice, wholesome, and it's protected, well protected from predators. In other words, you can't have You won't have groundhogs going over there on top of your roof or something like that, or squirrels or dogs or cats or any other wild animals screwing up your crop, and it's right there up and where it has plenty of sunshine, plenty of water, and it does quite well. You could do this on all the metropolitan areas, but it's not popular in the United States to do so. It's just gonna be a lot. I've seen the Japanese grow crops, not crops, but plants on their balconies quite often. They do it quite more. They do it a lot more than the United States. Anyway, but I just want to say that the people that are, I personally didn't think silver was going to stay down this long. I figured about it was going to stay down for maybe 4 or 5 years. By 2017, it would be back up. Yeah, right. Well, I mean, what can I tell you, man? I mean, I didn't think palladium was going to take off as good as it did. I thought it was going to go over the price of gold eventually, but I don't know when. That turned out that it's probably going to go up a lot more than it is. But I can also tell you, I think it's dangerous. I think palladium is actually dangerous to invest in right now, although I was correct on it originally. I just want to tell you, I'm bringing that up because despite me being, well, actually, I called things a little closer than I think a lot of people on the silver, because I did realize that I thought it was going to go down about $22 an ounce or something back when it was looking like it was going to go up to 50 or something. I did call all that stuff, but I mean, it's not like, I just know it's a fickle thing, but it's not a dead end by no means. No means. The reason I'm just going to emphasize this again, silver is basically going to be very important, not because of it's historically been used in shiny little coins that people are used to trading. It's going to be for the medicinal reasons. Now, I know there's controversy about, well, first off, it's flat out proven that it's antimicrobial against any microbe there is, and a microbe can't morph into something that's resistant to silver, colloidal ionic silver. That's a fact. We know that part. Now, as far as the stem cell regeneration, that is, there's studies that are saying it doesn't happen, and there's other studies. The one I pointed out was Dr. Robert Otto Becker, that says it does happen. Now, one of the reasons I think it does work is because now they're coming out with silver impregnated bandages, and not only does it help to the area that's wounded, whatever it is they put the bandage on, heal without an infection, but it seems to heal better. And the reason it seems to heal better is because the silver is causing stem cells to be regenerated right at the area of the injury. And I'm thinking, if this is even slightly true, maybe it's not like the miracle, like you just can't drink a whole bunch of colloidal ionic silver and have all the stem cells in your body regenerated as much as needed and you'll never die. Well, I don't know if it's going to be that great, but if it has any kind of effect like that, it's also going to have an effect on longevity. Stem cell regeneration has a lot to do with, cell generation, how many times a cell can divide. So I look at it like, it's got extreme potential, especially if it goes beyond the antimicrobial practical uses. If it turns out that this stem cell regeneration does work, maybe under specific circumstances, because I think it does work. I think the conflict between the studies that it doesn't work and it does work is because of how the studies are being conducted. You see conflicts about, does this vitamin work? And then somebody will say it doesn't work. And you're looking at, sometimes the conflicts are because one's comparing the natural vitamin E, for instance, has great benefits, but the pharmaceutical vitamin E obviously is not exactly the same as the natural, even though they say it is. It doesn't have the same benefits. Or you say that with lycopene. Lycopene from tomato has a lot of benefits. The lycopene that's synthetically made for pharmaceutical, from the pharmaceutical labs, doesn't work as well. It doesn't work at all, as a matter of fact, in some situations. This may be the case with the silver and the stem cell theory. We'll put it that way. But if that theory, it turns out to be not a theory, and I don't think it is a theory, because I think, I read Dr. Robert Otto Becker's book, The Body Electric. that he did, which was stuff he did back in the late 70s, and it's been proven over and over again that, stem cells can be regenerated with colloidal silver. So you could be, I mean, even in a world where there's never going to be a financial collapse, I could tell you that if you were going to be able to stay younger, looking vibrant, like this lady was 100 years old and she looked like this and she felt like this, you would be all over getting freaking colloidal ionic silver for your stem cell regeneration and rejuvenation and youthfulness without any kind of problem in the economy. That's why I think silver is going to be a great investment. It's not because of, the ratio's been this historically in the past and all this. If people realize that it can keep you younger, stronger, more vibrant, and help your body heal better, I think it actually does work like that, and that's why I've been started taking the colloidal silver myself more, because if you noticed on my other videos, my little furry friend Boots the Confederate Cat had his eye hurt, which I don't see physically hurt, but he looked like he was infected. I've been making colloidal silver every day, a solution of colloidal ionic silver. It's actually the ionic that's allegedly produces the stem cells, and putting in his little meow meow water dish. It's 100% it's 5 parts per million, just pure colloidal ionic silver. He's been drinking it every day, and his eye looks like it's better. At least it's not watering. And I'm hoping if it does help regenerate stem cells, if there's any kind of damage, the damage is going to go away eventually. It might take 6 months, it might take a year or whatever, but he'll be 100% new again. We shall see. Nothing. It's nothing I can do about it. I don't want to take him to a vet because they might do something drastic, like remove his eye or something. I'm like, don't do that. But if that turns out to be true, well, that's why I'm drinking it too. I figured I'd make a little for me too while making for Mr. Meow Meow. So anyway, over and out. And I just want to tell you again, you may, I know that they tell you a lot of these different things about, the financial world is this and that and all this. Just think of it as a financial hologram. And someday, I think if the United States, I don't think the United States itself is going to collapse because there's people actually work, but that's really what provides the fuel for the economy. But as far as the hologram, the financial hologram that's been created with the over $22 trillion of debt, and how we can just export all the hard labor to other countries and have them do all the dirty work that the Americans don't want to do, I don't think that's going to continue. No. And someday people are just going to look at it like it was ludicrous to even go down that path. That's what I think is going to happen. How it's going to be viewed in history. The path that we took is going to be ludicrous. And, unfortunately, it looks like this is going to be drastic. The Deagle.com predictions might not be that far off. I don't know. They seem a little way out there, man. They're talking about, I think we got over 330 million people in the United States now. It's just 2019. And they're talking projection of 99 million by 2025. And that's not a conspiracy site. That's a bona fide military aviation site that does projections on GDP, purchasing power parity, military expenditures, and populations in all the countries in the world. They're not like into drama conspiracy or nothing. They might be right. They might be right because of all the debt we got. And if the populations get hurt the most, they're going to get hurt the most in the urban cities, not in the outlying areas. It's going to be the urban cities that are going to get clobbered the most. So, I think they're way exaggerated, but I think they're basically on the right track. As far as 2025, maybe. I personally think, my opinion on Mr. Trump is he's kind of like a pre-planned Reagan too, and he's better than I thought he was. To tell you the truth, he's better than Reagan. But I don't trust. Well, first off, I don't want to say this too much because I don't know if YouTube will. I don't trust this MAGA stuff. In other words, the markets are going to come down at some point in time when Trump is in office, and it's going to make MAGA look like crapola, if you want to put it that way. And also, don't trust this Q yo-yo thing. They should come out with P or R or whatever the hell it is. Q whatever the hell that is. Question mark. It's like that guy question mark, 96 tears. That was Q. Remember her question mark? So anyway, we're not out of the jungle yet, and but for now we're going to be continuing on with the hologram. And as far as what we use for money, it's going to be basically like meatless wham. They tell you it's meat, but it's not. That's really what the hell's going on in the financial system, okay? So the reality of it is silver money? Anything can be money, right? Pack of cigarettes can be money. But like I said, I'm looking at it from a whole other angle, and I said it several times already. The biological and medicinal purposes that can be, the potentials of silver is immense. Immense. If it turns out that this stem cell regeneration is correct under certain ways that it can be done, and maybe it's not just ingesting silver, colloidal silver, maybe there's something else that has to be done on top of that, or some other nutrients whereby it's really going to generate stem cells throughout your body. If that turns out to be true, or there's a certain method that needs to be unlocked in addition to just taking colloidal ionic silver, well, the metal is going to have, it's going to be worth many times more than gold, because everybody's going to want it. See? But you're not going to want to part with it, because you know why? Because even if you only got a couple ounces, that stuff can go a long way. Long way. That's why anybody that does not even have 2 ounces of silver, they should at least get 2 ounces for those reasons. Medicinal and biological and antimicrobial. Anyway, over and out.